Cover Story. This week, as the communal cauldron in Uttar Pradesh boils over, we speak to Jitin Prasad, the HRD Minister of State, and more importantly, a young MP from Uttar Pradesh.
मैं जितिन प्रसाद ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं। मैं सभी प्रकार के लोगों के प्रति संविधान और विधि के अनुसार न्याय करूंगा।
The 30-year-old Jitin Prasad belongs to a category that is fast becoming extinct. He is perhaps the last standing Brahmin Congress leader from Uttar Pradesh. His father, the late Jitendra Prasad, was a key player in both Rajiv Gandhi and Narasimha Rao's Congress. Jitin himself is an integral part of Team Rahul and has a crucial role to play in the party vice president's pet project, crafting a Congress comeback in Uttar Pradesh. The stakes for Congress are indeed high. This is a time when Uttar Pradesh is burning with communal fires, from the VHP's Ayodhya Yatra to the recent riots in Muzaffarnagar. This is also a time when the votes are getting polarized between the SP and the BJP, while the Congress is slowly being reduced to a bystander. The BSP has its committed cadre, but the Congress has reason to worry. Clearly, being a Congress MP from Uttar Pradesh is an uphill battle. Politics, interestingly, was not Jitin's profession of choice. A graduate from the Doon School and Shriram College of Commerce, Jitin was working as a financial consultant when his father's sudden death forced him to take on the family legacy. But his easy affability, his father's goodwill, and a keen sense of cowbell politics soon catapulted him on the fast track. Let's now talk to the Minister of State for HRD about the twin challenge before his young leader, winning back Uttar Pradesh and puncturing the challenge that is Narendra Modi. Hello and welcome to Cover Story. Jitin, first of all, let's begin with the politically sensitive state from where you come from, Uttar Pradesh, Muzaffarnagar riots. Who do you hold responsible? Do you think the Akhilesh government could have done something more, or did the central government fail to warn them in advance?
No, of course, Uttar Pradesh is in a bad state today with the state government not being capable enough of handling the situation there. It's totally gone out of control. The administration has lost the grip. The people are in fear. They've lost the confidence of the Samajwadi government in UP. As far as the centre goes, the centre has been informing them that this could flare up and there could be riots in that area. Law and order being a subject of the state government. Why it didn't act on time, what their intentions were, what they were planning, I don't know. Just goes to show that the state has gone back in terms of development, in terms of thinking, in terms of the youth policies. And communal things are on the agenda, and they are being talked about. It looks like it's totally out of control of the people who are. So,
is it a fit case for central rule, for president's rule? Because we heard the Home Minister RPN Singh saying also that we had warned them. Yeah. They did not heed the warning. Then
no, I don't know what the president rule is. Something which the Home Ministry will take a call on. What I can say is that the state government has lost the moral authority to rule and govern. We want this government to step down. Yesterday I was in Moradabad and I met a lot of people, Congress workers and normal people who were not affiliated to any party, and they have been demanding president rule and saying that this government has no right to exist because people have lost faith in the governance. There is no administration, and even if there is, they don't have any credibility left that they will deliver in terms of maintaining peace, being fair and bringing a sense of confidence amongst the people.
But why is it? I mean, do you also see that there is some kind of, Digvijay Singh used a very interesting word. He's saying there's a match fixing going on between the BJP and the SP because these communal flare-ups only polarize votes and two parties stand in a position to gain by polarization.
You're right. It's a fact that people have seen through this. This is not the 90s or the 80s. This is 2013. You can't play these games and people will not be aware. People have become very aware. They know that these things are being given a free hand. And who stands to gain? The BJP. Who stands to gain? The Samajwadi. But this one has backfired on the Samajwadi government and on the BJP as well, where people have made out their designs, their intentions. They have no agenda in terms of development. It's a complete, both of them are in hand in glove, the BJP and the Samajwadi party. And people have seen through this, and I'm sure they will not succeed.
But what about, say, the VHP Yatra? Again, do you think SP is subtly encouraging these incidents?
You know, it is, The Samajwadi Party government, when the VHP Yatra takes place, there are hardly any sadhus there. But in full media glare, they roll out the police machinery and
but first they meet
something that never was there and build a hype over it that they are the champions of secularism. And now also they are letting, as far as justice is concerned, people have lost hope that this government will deliver justice. And whatever justice will be done with a political intention and motive, where a lot of hype has been given about arresting people who have, from the BJP, who have been involved in the inflammatory speeches. So they are going to ensure that this it rises to a crescendo, media takes it up, people talk about it, and when they should have acted swiftly from the very beginning to restore confidence and peace, they did not. Now they are tom-tomming about it and saying we will arrest and justice will prevail and we will act harshly with an iron hand. All that doesn't matter. It's just posturing for political gains.
But isn't the Congress being reduced to a bystander in this? Because see, BSP had his committed cadre. It's SP and BJP have their famous match fixing going on. Why does the Congress stand?
No, Congress does not believe in doing politics over riots and communal divides. The Congress is not looking for any gains.
Congress went to the elections with the whole playing the Muslim card, playing the Azamgarh card, playing the reservations card.
That card is something, it's not what you might call it a card. The call is we are looking at actually benefiting the sections which have been left behind in the growth story. We are looking at taking that section forward,
politics of divide,
which has been left behind in the education, in terms of benefits, in terms of growth, in terms of jobs, in terms of whichever parameter.
No, but the whole argument to that reservation is you give it not on basis of caste or religion, but on basis of economics.
No.
This is also politics of divide in a way.
No, if you take any census, you will see there is a problem where certain sections of the society have been left behind, and our intention, the government's intention, is to have a level playing field for everybody, give everybody equal opportunity. So it's our commitment to ensure that the weaker sections, the poor people, the marginalized groups do get proper attention so that they get an equal chance.
Okay, after Muzaffarnagar incident, do you think Akhilesh Yadav still has the moral authority to rule?
No, I have said that before also. There is no way that when a chief minister wants to clamp down and ensure law and order, it will not be done. He was careless or mishandled the situation. The officers were not given the right authority, or whatever stories that are coming that they weren't given a free hand, and that is why this figure of 40 plus has added up and so many deaths have happened. And this is the official figure. There are about 67. I have been in that area, around that area, Moradabad and other places, where people have told me that there's such a staggering figure which has not been reported, and so many people are missing. Where have they gone? This government has totally collapsed, and ensuring its duty of the first duty is ensuring peace and sense of confidence amongst its people, which has been eroded. 40,000 people out of their homes. Army has been out on the streets of UP after 21 years. The youth of UP hasn't seen this kind of violence, this kind of politics, this kind of instigation and careless attitude by governments.
Would you say this is as bad as Gujarat?
As far as I don't know the exact details of what exactly the figures were in Gujarat, but the call is in 2013 you are having such a staggering figure of deaths on communal lines. So much exodus of people living outside their houses in fear, not wanting to go back. So many people losing confidence in the administration. So many people are accusing fingers on local politicians, the state government. This is something unheard of. The governance has collapsed in UP.
Okay, in retrospect, Congress played a big role in destabilizing the Mayawati government. You didn't have the cadre, you couldn't take advantage of it electorally. But yes, there was a huge campaign led by Rahul Gandhi against Mayawati. Now, do you think maybe her government is better than the one that's come in now?
No, that government was also equally bad. That's why it was.
But there were no big riots during her time.
No, it wasn't riots. There were a lot of criminal activities. All the criminals had joined her bandwagon, and there was large-scale corruption in her area, in her regime. And people were fed up the way she was governing, and that is why such a change happened. But people are feeling disillusioned today, and this BJP Samajwadi match fixing is continuing. BJP is trying to communalize the situation and ensure that they get votes by dividing people on religious lines.
But do you think sending Amit Shah there was exactly for this purpose?
Well, these people carry that message of catering to a particular section of the society, and neglecting the other. And this kind of negative approach is not going to get any headway in UP at least, because those days have gone where you can instigate passions and get votes. People look for development, people look for a better future, people want much more better amenities.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question which I think I'm going to like. You know, we see there are two models of say young leaders. We have Akhilesh Yadav and we have Rahul Gandhi. Akhilesh Yadav took the plunge early. He didn't wait. You know, he became chief minister. He even advised Rahul, don't wait but take the plunge. Rahul here we are seeing is still waiting, as far as we know. Which is a better model, would you say?
No, there's no models here. The call is, there's no comparison between Chief Minister and Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who's a national leader who has appeal in every part of this country. And the call is not running after power as far as Mr. Rahul Gandhi is concerned. He is not looking at posts.
What is Rahul Gandhi after? He is
looking at reviving and setting things straight which are have gone wrong in this country. He is looking at giving a better future to the deprived sections. He is looking at giving a better life to the students and the youth of this country. He is looking at doing and bringing an agenda.
He's still looking, Jitin. When is he going to actually act?
He has. He doesn't have to be in a post. The call is he's a member and vice president of the party, and historic legislations have happened.
After 9 years, he became only in January.
Legislations have happened where land acquisition bill has been passed, your food security bill has been passed, right to education is being implemented, right to information is being implemented. He believes in an agenda which gives people something which is by rule of law and which is by legislation. And those are things which you don't bring about by doing some ordering something. It has to be by consensus, by debate, by policy, and that is what Mr. Rahul Gandhi's approach is. What he will do is for the long run, what he will do is permanent, and what he will do is ensure that these kind of politics of just communal and caste is put on the back burner, because people of India cannot afford to have this kind of politics which is non-progressive, not towards development, not towards taking this country forward.
Okay, see, Rahul says I'm against caste. Then he goes and talks about Sam Pitroda's caste in an election. Then he says people should, recently he said, I'm told that people who are from other parties should not be given tickets. Who are his two key people in Uttar Pradesh itself? Beni Prasad Verma, Rashid Masood, both from SP. If you look at his other key people, you have Mohan Prakash, who's an outsider. Jairam Ramesh has been jumping parties. Half his people are people who jump parties.
No, he talks about aspirations. He's not talking about any castes here. He's saying if those people who are downtrodden, haven't been given that equal opportunity, can aspire to be better and equal than as the rest of the country and rest of the people are. So his approach is of ensuring the divide which is there bridges. He's not talking about segregating people on caste lines. He's talking about bridging people and ensuring that they come together. And as far as insider outsider, the call is last minute jumping and getting a ticket. I think he's against that. But not about if people look at the Congress and they believe in the policies and the programs of the party and the leadership, why not? They're welcome, and they're welcome to contribute. And if they do good, they will get promoted in the ladder. So that's it's on merit and it's on capability. It's not on insider, outsider and jumping bandwagons.
See, you are also a key player in Team Rahul. You are a part of the team that he's trying to build up for the future. But there are a lot of old congressmen, people who are maybe senior to you also, who are feeling left out of Rahul's Congress. How does he plan to take them all together?
Particular, as far as whatever little I've seen, that he does ensure that seniors get respect, seniors' views are taken, and we people who are relatively young are ensured that made to go on the ground, work hard, be the foot soldiers, and not sit in Delhi and only do policy making. I think you're completely wrong on that, because he believes in taking everybody along. In fact, seniors, their experience counts, their leadership counts, their views count, and Mr. Rahul Gandhi is very particular about that.
Because they have been feeling left out. Also, a lot of senior leaders say that, you know, we had a cohesion with his father. I don't want to take names, but now we are sitting in the waiting room waiting for the son to give us time. There is a little disconnect over here.
No, I totally disagree. I don't think anything of this sort is happening. Where due respect, I can assure you, whatever I've seen in UP, all senior leaders have been given due respect and recognition, and they contribute with their ideas and they're implemented. And of course, generations are there where people have associated with his grandmother and his father and with him as well, and he's very comfortable with all.
Okay, going back to UP, do you think you people had a good campaign, but it didn't really materialize? Do you think one of the big mistakes was not projecting a face? You still don't have a face for Uttar Pradesh.
Possible. One of the reasons could be a face, but that's not it. Maybe the people didn't believe in what the policies and programs that we were talking about would be implemented. Being a state which was divided on caste lines, which the Congress doesn't follow. Being a state which votes on communal lines at times where parties like BJP flare up passions. So maybe at that point of time these parties, the casteist and communal parties, got the better of us. But we are committed to ensure that UP people get a better future.
But who is your face for Uttar Pradesh? Why are you not the face, for instance? Why isn't Jitin Prasad the face?
Jitin Prasad is in two-term election. He's been given a ministry in his first term, and he is trying to work as much as hard as he can, and so is other leaders like RPN Singh, Salman Khurshid, Sri Prakash Jaiswal, Beni Prasad Verma, Pradeep Jain, who are all ministers.
But none of this galaxy was projected as chief minister. Any one of you could have.
No, it's not about chief. It's not a projection about chief minister. Congress has believed that always is a collective leadership, and all of us have been given places of importance in our respective areas. We do try and work hard. Just so happened that I told you that the caste and communal passions were flared up, and we couldn't go and get that kind of confidence of the people. But we will. We know we are right. We know we have the right policy. We know we have the right program. We will continue to hammer and try and convince the people that this is the best alternative. And I'm sure they're already beginning to think that after seeing what the disastrous performance of the Samajwadi Party government in UP is, they're beginning to think the Congress would have been a better choice.
Okay, moving out of the cowbed to the rest of India, we just had Modi being announced as a prime ministerial face. When we look at Congress, who's your face? I mean...
No, see, we've always, like I said, we have the Prime Minister already sitting on the chair.
Who has said let Rahul Gandhi
who's the Congress president, and we have Mr. Rahul Gandhi. These three are the top faces for the Congress. And we are, as I said, on programs. We are not on personalities that much. We are on programs, and we will deliver what we have promised to the people of this country. And landmark legislations have happened.
Landmark legislations have happened. That's the other thing. Now you don't need the SP support. Your legislations have happened. Why don't you just
no, it's not about support.
Distance yourself publicly from the SP?
It's not about the support. There's no distancing. What is wrong is wrong. If Samajwadi Party government has done a disastrous job in UP, I'll be the first one to criticize it, and so will the Congress. And if the Chief Minister has failed, and if they handle up with the Bharatiya Janata Party, in this match-fixing covert operations which they have, where they go and decide how to go about and get gains for both the parties, we will criticize them, we will condemn them, and we will oppose them on the streets.
Okay, coming back to this Rahul versus Modi drama, why don't you name Rahul? I mean, everybody is seeing it as a Rahul versus Modi. लगता है कि Modi is too keen and Rahul is too reluctant.
As far as any naming goes, what you name in your own in-house, what RSS names is not the Prime Minister of this country.
No, but it's
people
the face.
Will vote,
this is what
the people will vote, and the people of this country will decide is going to be the Prime Minister of this country. So what you do in-house is not what this country does. The country is the people of this country are very competent. They'll take the right decision at the right time, and I'm sure they will vote the Congress, and you will see in the future Mr. Rahul Gandhi will be the Prime Minister.
If the Congress comes to power, Rahul Gandhi will be a Prime Minister.
We want him to be the Prime Minister. He is the leader. He is the leader of the new generation. He is working hard. He is fulfilling his responsibilities in the organization, and also reaching out to the people of this country.
So then why not name him? Why go with this?
Why, just because you say so?
Because it'll clear up a lot of confusion. This idea of a reluctant Rahul is his biggest baggage. Then if he gets rid of that, at least, No,
there's nothing of that. There's no baggage, and there's no disillusionment, and there's no lack of clarity. It's very clear. Congress goes on policies and programs with a collective leadership, and the people of this country will decide who the Prime Minister will be.
See, Manmohan has also said, I want to work under Rahul. I don't think Sonia Gandhi has any objections to her son. That's the whole idea, in fact. So why not?
When is that a question? The call is, I told you, the people will decide. It doesn't happen in-house. The country's Prime Minister is decided by the people's will.
We leave it to the people will, but for now, just explain to me this. I just want to talk about the body language of the two people. You know, here you have Modi. When he talks to the CII, when he talks to people, he uses positive imagery. He calls himself knight on a white horse. He says, here I have the solutions. This is what I will do to fix it. This is what I've done in Gujarat. He comes with models, with examples. Here you have Rahul Gandhi, who comes and he says, yes, something is wrong in the system, but I don't know how to fix it. So you have a helpless leader versus a positive. You know, I'm not saying all that Modi has done is correct.
You can talk about yourself and say, I've done this, I've done that. But it's only not about doing something which only a select few people benefit. When you're a leader, you take all sections of society. When you're aspiring to be the top slot, you cannot leave a segment of the society. And they don't have to be in fear of you. They have to have their confidence. You have to go out and get their confidence. And that is what Mr. Rahul Gandhi is about. He takes along everybody of this country.
So inclusive versus divisive, that's your...
It's a very big thing. You can't be a sectarian leader. You can't be a polarizing figure only catering to a section and whipping up passions. And all his talk of development is fine. But the call is all voting patterns have been on communal lines. So what are you trying to say? This is all show. The reality is that they have no program. You can talk about any place where from UP to Bihar to Gujarat to wherever, it's one sole agenda for the BJP, and that is ensure there is a communal divide, ensure that there are these problems and get the votes. And then we'll talk about agenda, about development and stuff like that. That's not how it is.
No, but at least there is a leader. Here there is missing a leader.
A leader of a section. A leader, actual leader, is about everybody, which he is not.
Okay, moving on from these two, I mean, this is going to be the same, but what is the Congress going to actually, you said you're going to take food security, but you haven't really been able to implement it. Isn't UPA 2, all the schemes being implemented at the very last minute? UPA 1, at least you had RTI, you had...
right, but the call it takes time, there's a coalition government.
But this is in the last 6 months in which you hurried up and passed all your bills.
You got to take everybody on board. It can't happen overnight. These are landmark legislations. These are going to have a far-reaching impact on ensuring the weaker sections do get the benefit of the legislation that has happened. And these are permanent solutions. These are not fly-by-night operations and talking of sloganeering and not delivering. Once these things have taken time, and when they do take time, they are permanent and for the better of this country and forever. And this will you will see as time passes.
My last few questions, one is on your ministry, HRD. We've just had this controversy over Yogendra Yadav resigning. He's saying that, there are political people on SC/ST commissions on other boards, so why are we singling him out?
No, actually, this is a matter of the UGC, which is an autonomous body. And they are free to take decisions. And I can assure you, everything is done according to the rule book. Nothing will be done against anybody which is against the rules. So if it fits in the rule that he is not eligible, action will be taken.
But his argument is just because he joined, if he joined the Congress, would he still have been action had been taken?
Arguments can happen for anything. What is in the rules is in the rules. What is not in the rules is not. That's it. Everything is done by the rule book. Nothing is wrong.
So Congress is playing by the rule book here. But supposing he joined the Congress, would you have sacked him?
Join anything. Rules are rules. As far as these bodies are concerned, these are not about politics. These are not about politicizing them. These are bodies for regulating education in this country. This education in this country is paramount. You cannot let it fall in the hands of political people, whichever party they might be, and have a political agenda there. That has to be above politics. It's for this country, and that's top priority.
Okay. Coming to yourself, Jitin, you for profession, politics was not your first choice of profession. So are you happy or unhappy that you made this decision? It was kind of forced on you, but...
No, it's not forced. I only took it up after my father passed away and not in it while he was there. And it was a choice which I took a conscious decision. And of course, it's a very fulfilling experience in terms of starting from your home where you contest with the people that you've grown up with, and you're being able to make a difference in their lives, bring in new programs, policies that benefit them. And
but from being a financial consultant to being a politician, it's a whole new divide.
Financial consultant, you're dealing with your own, trying to grow in a direction which is very cocooned, and trying to make a difference in a very small sphere. But here, I've been given my leadership. Mrs. Gandhi has given me a great opportunity of working under different ministries as well, and in the organization of the party as well. It's a great learning experience. You're reaching out to a lot of people. You enrich yourself while you grow in this field, and you are able to make a difference and try and do something better for this country.
So which of the, you've been in 3-4 ministries, steel, petroleum, road, transport, and now HRD. Which is the minister you've most enjoyed working with? Whose work style? Just as a
minister.
Yeah. You had like 3-4 senior ministers.
I've had a great share of ministers, from Mr. Paswan to Mr. Murli Deora to Mr. C.P. Joshi and now to Mr. Pallam Raju. So I've got an array of different backgrounds, different personalities and different styles of working. All of them have been damn good, and I learned from each of them how to work and how they operate in terms of functioning of their politics and the government, which is a great enriching. So there's nothing to pinpoint. Everyone is different, and all of them are good.
And which is the ministry you enjoyed the most?
No, like I said, all of them gave me a great opportunity to work in the ministry that I have. So different styles, you can't compare which is the best and which is not.
Okay, and about, I mean, you just had a son, congratulations. Is he going to also join politics? Any plans?
Given a choice, ain't no capital. And I'll leave it to him what he wants to do.
But do you regret this choice of politics? Or are you happy? Because your life is not your own anymore. What is it?
It's okay in terms of course, life becomes different, and the people and the friends that you had in school and colleges are on a different trajectory, and you are doing something totally different. But this is very challenging, and this thing that you are doing something which is making a difference.
You know, Jitin, getting this interview, I have been chasing you for a long while. So I'm wondering, you are married to a journalist. I thought that would have made you a little easier to us, or made you more wary.
That's what she told me, being married to a journalist, that only give interviews when you want to, not because when the other person is asking you to.
So I'm glad you finally decided to give us this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching Cover Story, and see you again same time next week.